Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Duke Football Coverage Podcast, brought to you as always by Bull City Coordinators. You can follow us at our newly retooled website, bullcitycoordinators.com. We've dropped the .wordpress out of it, and we are now just bullcitycoordinators.com. Follow us on Twitter at Duke FB Coverage. Listen to our podcast wherever you can find podcasts. We are on Apple, we are on Google, we are on Anchor, we are on Spotify. I think we're on Podbean, and for some reason we're listed under technology or something. I don't know, but whatever, we'll take whatever publicity that we can get. If you want to get in touch with us, if you are a former coach, former player, family member of a former coach or player, and you want to come on and chat, I love getting the chance to talk Duke football. I've been watching the team since I remember the late 80s and the Spurrier era, excuse me for that. I love a chance to get to talk about one of my favorite teams and one of my favorite sports. You can shoot me an email at my Gmail account, bullcitycoordinators@gmail.com. And now, moving on from that, we have a very special guest today, former offensive lineman, a guy who's part of a crew that you probably only notice if something goes wrong and you don't give them all the credit that they deserve for the hard work that they do. We have TC, the big cat himself, Takoby Cofield, has taken some time out of this Saturday morning to come on the program and chat with us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me this morning. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and talk to us. I know you got a lot going on. And before we get into your time at Duke and all things Duke football, just tell us what you're doing now. What are you up to these days?
So currently I'm signed in the CFL still. Currently in between playing up there and hopefully we have a season. They've given us some feedback about possibly having a reopening and having a season up there. But in the meantime, since the pandemic hit, I've actually been coaching football at Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School. I was the O-line coach and run game coordinator, as well as a social studies teacher over there. I got my degree at Duke in African and African American Studies, minor in education. So secondary plan B, I guess you could say, post pro ball was to coach and teach, and I've loved every second of it. As well as I have a skills training company, TC3 Performance, in which I train and mentor offensive linemen throughout the state of North Carolina. And I actually have some guys in some other places, as well as a couple guys that I've trained and kind of talked to a mentor up in Canada as well. So busy guy, been moving around, but nevertheless, still football oriented.
Well, it's interesting what you say about your backup plan after football was over, and you said a lot of things that I'd like to follow up on, but tell me a little bit about that. Do you think that Duke helped you from an educational perspective and preparing you for life after football?
Absolutely. They did a magnificent job with that, and that's something that I really commend Coach Cut for, and that I watched our program actually grow in so many different ways. And one of those ways is a lot of professional development, just in a post-football perspective. They gave us a lot of internship opportunities, even with guys still being focused as football players, and the network and the different connections that they help, us grow as far as relationships with alumni, and just different guys, so many different people, resume building, all those types of different things. Coach Cut, he did a great job of working with, everybody within the program to grow us as players, and not just players, but men, to go on. And, he always used to tell us, I want you guys to go be great fathers and brothers and uncles and nephews. But, you're going to have to go out here, and eventually the football is going to stop. You're not going to be able to run around on the field forever. So I think they did a great job with it.
Yeah, and I'm pushing 40, and I can sympathize with that. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I don't know what I did to my back, but all good things have to come to an end, not to kind of tell you what you may have to look out for in the future. But I'm gonna go a little bit off topic and out of order because I want to stay on this. My last interview with AJ Wolf he made me decide to ask players what they thought about the campus and the academic setting at Duke. Just tell us a little bit about what you liked about being a student at Duke, separate maybe from being a student athlete at Duke.
AJ is a great dude, by the way. Great, one of my great teammates. Really a hardworking guy, tough nosed guy. So he I'm sure he highlighted the competitiveness. You actually grow as a competitor off the field in a lot of aspects. And that's something that I did fall in love with initially. Believe it or not, it wasn't something natural for me. A lot of things in the classroom, it just kind of came natural. I just kind of did my schoolwork and got it done. But as time went on, with me being at Duke, I kind of became more of a competitor in the classroom. And that's something, again, preached by Coach Cut, Coach Durfee, is your habits, and they spill over into different parts of your life. And if you're a competitor, you're going to compete all the time. But on top of, I guess you would say most specifically as a student, it's something that I cherish now more actually than when I was there, just is the relationships that you create with the small class and the small environment over there. I still keep in touch with a lot of people I graduated in undergrad with, believe it or not, and it's because of the smaller class size. Such a small environment that you do have the opportunity to be close with your professors and talk with your professors, and still keep in touch with quite a few of them. So that's something that I really, really, really cherish a lot, because now as a teacher, I still reach out to some of my old professors. I can even go back and talk to them about things that we did in class as a means to better understand and better teach my kids now, the students that I have now. So the relationship piece, is phenomenal there. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I cherish 100%.
Well, that's good to hear. And I'm going to use that to segue into what you're currently doing as you're waiting to find out what may happen with your professional career this season. As I want to ask you a little bit about your experience as a coach, but I want to start with two things. What got you into coaching, and then if you can explain to people like me who are more casual fans, didn't grow up playing football, what you as a run game coordinator do.
Okay. So you'll love to hear this. I see the tweets, and I'm sure I call him Papa John. I'm sure he sees him too. He's a big reason why I got into coaching. He's a huge reason. I still talk to Coach Latina all the time, and I call him Papa John. But and I've told him plenty of times this, and I credit him with not only saving my football career, but with saving my life in a lot of aspects. The tough love, but not only that, the care and the lessons that I've learned from him over the time since me and him met, and our relationship has grown from player coach to man to mentor. He really got me into coaching, and he really helped me understand more of like I said, the relationship piece, and just how to understand and see things from a different perspective. As a coach, I kind of used to view a lot of coaches, and a lot of coaching is one way, and he kind of showed me differently how to make guys tick. What type of relationship do you have with your players? I'm not scared to say it, but he could look at us and tell us to go run through a brick wall, and all of us probably would go head first without hesitation, just because our relationship with him was that great. And that's what really got me into coaching. Just his relationship with me, as well as Marcus Johnson. He was another guy that heavily influenced that. Me and him still speak quite a bit. Marcus is a great mentor of mine, and somebody I really look up to. Ton of football knowledge, ton of life experience, and he's always been another mentor of mine. Somebody that I've always looked to for advice, and both of them I watch, I watch them take guys that I didn't think, probably were going to be great players, and just help them grow and mature and polish them up. And, they grew and they became great, not only as players, but they continue to grow as men. A lot of those guys I call my friends and former teammates, but it really inspired me to kind of go out and say, this is important, because I saw the importance for me and a lot of my other teammates. So that's been huge. Run game coordinator wise, it's schematically. Schematically, I try and draw up all the runs. I try and get all the runs together. Formation wise, what's going to work best for us. Scheme wise, what's going to work best for us. I try to protections. I try to make sure that we're always putting ourselves in good position if we're going to throw the ball. We're always protected. We understand where the blitzes may or may not be coming from. Just a ton, but mostly just trying to schematically draw up and put together the run game every week, and just trying to figure out scheme wise what's going to work best for us on the ground.
Let me follow up on a couple of points. One with Coach Latina. I just got to say, there are very few men that can pull off a mustache, but he can do it, all right? So that's when you know you've got a cool guy, right? All right? That's your first sign that this guy knows what he's doing, all right? But second, tell me a little bit about, I guess you're still an active player. What's the biggest difference between going from playing to coaching?
The fact that you can't get out there and do it, and learning how to have to translate what may or may not work for you as a player and what you see, and trying to get players to speak your language. And that's something Coach Latini should talk about all the time. We got to speak the same language. You got to see what I see. I got to see what you see. And we got to all kind of see the same picture the same way. And that way we're always on the same page. So being able to take pro football knowledge and water it down to almost its most bare minimum foundation, to be able to translate that, help them understand it, help them digest it, and then be able to function. And that is within itself is quite a task a lot of times, especially with high school football players, because their background may not have been a lot of football, a ton of football, or they might have been taught so many different things at so many different times that you got to kind of try and figure out, like, okay, how much do you know, and what do you know, and what can you relate to the fastest? So it's tough. It's really tough. It's tough sometimes. A lot of times, at times it's easy, and you do get some easy wins at times where you go, oh, good, you all kind of understand the same thing. We can move on fast from this part. And then, like I said, just trying to find ways to make guys tick. Because as a player, you can be a team spark plug. You can kind of go out there and make a couple plays, and you can kind of change the momentum and change the feeling on the sideline. As a coach, you have to find a way to make somebody a spark plug sometimes, and make guys believe and understand their jobs and what's important for the game and for the team. So there's a lot to kind of go with that, and it can get tough sometimes, but I love it. The rewarding part is when you see it work. You see guys flourish and you see guys continue to grow and get better.
Let me follow up on a couple of things, just because I thought what you were saying was very interesting about trying to get them to understand you and you to understand them. I remember when Magic Johnson was trying to coach the Lakers, he was yelling at one of his point guards that somebody was open, and his assistant said, Magic, he doesn't see it like you see it, right? He doesn't see the floor the way you see it. Is that ever a challenge for you? I mean, you've got professional experience. You were in the NFL. You're waiting to go back to the CFL. You played at a high-level institution of college football. Is that something that's ever a challenge for you with the player? Like, how could you not see that? It was right there.
I would say I'm a very different kind of coach. I don't yell. I don't raise my voice at all. Period. I don't yell, and I let players and coaches know that immediately when I come on staff. Is, hey, I'm not one of these guys that's going to yell at anybody. I don't even raise my voice. You're not going to hear me. You're never going to hear me. But I kind of think that goes in with being able to kind of help them. If you feel like I'm teaching instead of I'm yelling at you, so to speak, in a lot of cases, you'll be less subject to make a mistake. And I kind of learned that from myself. And I have two sons, 4 and 3 years old. The 4-year-old, I can't raise my voice with him at all, where he'll just kind of crumble and fold. And it kind of, my mom told me one day, she was like, well, you don't like when people yell at you because you like to get as close to perfect and do the right thing. So if you kind of change the way he's feeling sometimes, as opposed to saying, well, my dad's going to yell at me. And same thing on the field, I make my players feel like, well, he's not going to yell at us. If we come up with an issue or we do something wrong, I want you to feel accountable for yourself and for the job you're doing and the job that you have to get done for your brother beside you, and not necessarily that I'm going to yell. But believe it or not, I make the accountability theirs in the sense that my players, they'll hold each other accountable. They'll be the ones that kind of do the yelling sometimes and do the policing of each other. And when I feel like when an offensive line especially holds each other accountable, and that's something that we did a great job of, Coach Latina and Coach Johnson and Daryl Harris, he was there too with us. They did a great job of growing us into that, and that's holding each other accountable. And I feel like that makes you a ton better as a team and as a program, and you grow a lot from that. No, I don't have to go out there and rah-rah anybody to death. It's just, hey, here's a problem, here's the answer, here's how we fix it. Let's move on. So it helps a lot with them understanding and seeing, knowing that, hey, he's not gonna dog cuss us if we mess this up. He's just gonna help us fix our issues.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who uses that phrase that you just used. But I say that to some people, it's like, look, you're about to make me dog curse you. And they look at me like I'm crazy. I said, no, it's a phrase. People say it. People say it.
100% they do.
So I've got citations now. Okay, and you're a worldly guy. You've been to Canada. You played internationally. See, I can back this up. That's good. I want to ask you a little, or talk to you a little bit about not yelling or raising your voice, because that's something that I've worked hard on myself, with my kids and everything. But they know that when Dad raises his voice, it's serious, right? But as a coach, I'm not comparing what I'm doing to the coaching that you're doing or anything like that. But we coach our kids' soccer teams and we help out with that.
Absolutely.
And I don't yell at the kids. Now, when we're on the sidelines, you're having to yell so they can hear you, right? But that's a different matter. But I don't know what the change was with me, but as I got older and you would see the kind of yelling, screaming, old school screamer coaches, I kind of got to a point where I said, that used to be idolized and kind of the way you do it, but it doesn't really look like effective communication to me. And so I like when my son and my daughter play for coaches who don't do that, coaches who are more, hey, I'm going to look at you face to face and I'm going to tell you what you did right and what you did wrong, but I'm not going to dress you down,
Right.
And I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I'm by all means, and it actually started. It actually started for me. I coached a 13U AYF team this spring as well, just to kind of. Since this was my first time coaching since 2017. 2017, I was at Nightdale High School. I tore my ACL in 2016 when I was with the Raiders. So I came back. I was in Durham training and trying to get my knee back together. And I did a lot of my PT work at Duke. Majority of it. Thank you. Big thanks to Hap and Coach Cudd and Coach Durfee for welcoming me back in and helping me get better. Nick Potter did a wonderful job. Wonderful. Nick is a great dude. Great. Does a wonderful job working with me and a lot of the athletes there at Duke, current and former. So, coming back there and just kind of wanted to get back in the swing of things. And I coached at, like I said, a 13U AYF team. And, with them, I was like, wow, I've never coached kids this young before. This is going to be super different for me. And just having the parents kind of be around and just the kids and understanding kind of their temperament. Generations change. Generations do things a little differently. They learn from the generation before them. And a lot of these young men and young women of this generation, they're fragile in some spots. They've seen a lot. We've been through a lot as a society. So some of their traumas they don't exactly know how to deal with, and some of their triggers are a bunch of yelling, loud noises, yelling, and they just feel frustrated from that. So I just try and keep the world as calm as I can around them. And Coach Latina used to tell us, again, I keep referencing him because he's literally it's a lot of knowledge and it's a lot of help. And I tell him every time I talk to him, like, Coach, you help me in ways you have no idea. And you probably thought I was ignoring you, and I was soaking up every word that you were saying. But he used to tell us, as offensive linemen, we're problem solvers. And my dad used to always tell me, once you get frustrated, you stop thinking. So keeping the world calm, kind of keeping players calm, keeping people calm, and helping them open their ears as opposed to feeling emotional a lot of times, be it soccer, football, basketball, it helps them function a little bit easier, especially when the gravity of the game has rose, you're in the fourth quarter, or something's going on, there's a heated exchange, a lot of yelling and kind of getting them riled up might lead to them making a reaction or doing something, but your teams and your kids are going to follow your temperament. Coach Latina was a tough dude. He was tough, hard-nosed, but he loved us. So we became that. We became a very close-knit, tight group. We love each other. We still have an O-line group chat. We talk all the time. We support each other. We still keep in touch. But we were tough. We were gritty. And I believe your kids, your position group, whoever you're dealing with, they're going to take on that personality of who you are when you're dealing with them a lot.
One thing I always like to do when kids would come off the field is I'd pull them aside and tell them if they'd done something that they didn't need to do again. So they made a mistake or they just did something a little bit off or whatever. I would tell them that, but also say, but here's what you did right, so that they wouldn't get down on themselves. Is that something that you try to do one-on-one with the kids you coach?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Usually I ask, what did you see? Because I want to make sure that, again, we're all seeing the same picture. And usually after that, when they tell me, I try to strip the emotions as fast as I can. I try to look at them and tell them, usually they're coming off, I saw this, but man, why did he da-da-da? And usually that's when all right, look, it's over. It's over. Can't change it. Now let's fix the problem. Let's fix the problem and let's worry about you playing to your strengths. What are you good at? Okay, this is what you got to do going back out there. What do you got to fix? All right, let's fix that. So when your number's called and the coach turns around, he doesn't see emotions. He sees a player that's ready, that's understood his mistake, and it's ready to make a play and ready to kind of go back in and reinsert itself to help us win and help us improve. So, and that's being the guy, being in that kid's shoes before and having been emotional, and the coach sees the emotions and it's like, ain't putting you back in. You're mad at me even for taking you out. It's like now we're fighting emotions and we're fighting coach that's making assumptions about your emotions. So absolutely, I try to, like I said, keep them calm as much as I can, and it helps a lot.
Well, let's turn a little bit to your professional experience. Tell us a little bit about what your NFL career was like. If I recall correctly, you were an undrafted free agent. Tell us a little bit about the challenges and struggles that would present as opposed to being drafted, and kind of just the process from pro day all the way through your NFL career.
It was kind of a wild time, in the sense that, kind of looking back at it now at 29, it went fast. There's a lot of things that kind of went fast, but I thank God that I soaked up a lot of those moments and a lot of the information that I got, and those experiences. Getting prepared for my pro day was pretty intense. I trained in North Miami Beach for a while trained for the combine there. Got a chance to be down there with some pros and kind of see how they take care of themselves, how they interact, what things are important to them. Just kind of seeing what an off season for a pro football player, a multi-year pro football player kind of looked like. And then transitioning from down there, I came back to Durham to get ready for pro day. And like I said, it was intense. My intent was to get drafted. I had Lakin with me. Me and him had each other from day one. Talking even before we came into Duke. We became pretty cool. Roommates freshman year. Coach Luke really made it adamant about us, being together. And that's being able to understand and rely on each other. And he told us when we came in, Coach Luke told us, he said, you guys are the foundation of something new here. You guys are going to be the beginning of something different for Duke football, especially up front of the offensive line. So I shout out to Big Lake for, pushing me and me pushing him every day. It was an everyday, all the time thing in the weight room, on the field. But, I knew he was getting a ton of notoriety and a ton of, attention. So I knew if I was going to make it, my opportunities had to kind of come competing against him, because he was such a good player, such a dominant player. And if they could even see, hey, this Cofield guy, he's far off from, Lakin, then I figured, hey, I'm going to land somewhere close and I'm going to get an opportunity. And that's all I really wanted, was an opportunity. So, for private visits and workouts where teams were coming in, I was getting calls from teams and just different things, and having to ask my agent, and Marcus and Coach Latina and Daryl, like, hey, what does this mean? What are we doing here? What does this mean? And them kind of giving me recommendations on different things to do and things they have been through. It was, like I said, it was a wild time, because the unknown is there, but you're working all the time. And it was a childhood dream since I was 8 years old. And draft day, it was bittersweet, because there were so many guys that I had become cool with and had come into contact with, played in all-star games, met at the combine, as well as Todd. Todd Gurley. He's younger than me, but same hometown, same place. I've known Todd since Todd was in 6th grade. I know his whole family. I actually talked to his mom a couple months ago. And his brother just had a birthday this past. So, being able to see Todd go and live his dream and be drafted so early, and, our hometown having 2 guys in the draft, and it was great to see that. But at the same time, starting to get calls in the 5th round, and, you're seeing guys still being picked, and, anticipation and anxiety kind of building up, like, man, like, Lakin went early, Todd went early, then Jameson gets pulled off the board. I'm like, man, like, I think I'm next. And, I'm kind of nervous. And then we get to the 7th round. And I'll never forget it. My agent looked at me and she said, this is it. They're not going to pick you. So go ahead and start looking at rosters. You're going to go undrafted. And I'll never forget it. I almost broke down into tears. Because I felt like everything I had worked hard for had been thrown out the door. Thought I was going to get drafted. Thought I was going to, see my name called on ESPN. Dreamt about it. And when it didn't happen, I was so devastated. But she kind of shook me a little bit and said, hey, listen, you're already getting calls. You're gonna you're gonna be fine. So get out of your feelings. You're okay. You're gonna be fine. Like, all right, if you say so. And it became a bidding war. After that, is every team in the NFL started calling, all 32, and they were just trying to outbid each other for a signing bonus to get me as an undrafted free agent. The Redskins and Coach Callahan actually called me. He called me on my personal cell, and I pick up the phone. And, he told me, he said, you're going to be a Washington Redskin before the football team, before they took their Redskin off. But he said, you're going to be here. You're going to be one of my players. I developed Ron Leary. I've developed Jeremy Parnell, and I think I can develop you into something similar. And he was really adamant. He spoke very highly. I really respected him for everything he'd done, from the Raiders to the Cowboys at that point in time in his career. He had been on so many different stops, and he was known as kind of the guru in the NFL with O-line coaches. So I was really excited. And they gave me a really good signing bonus too. So they outbidded everybody. So I was really excited about that.
You got to look out for yourself.
Absolutely. So once that kind of ended, and I walked out of the room, and I told my family, hey, I'm gonna be in Washington. I'm gonna be in the DMV. So they were really excited. Half of my family actually is from the DMV area. A lot of my cousins, aunts, ton of cousins and aunts that live up there. So it was good to be closer to them and be able for them to see me. And they could come to training camp and different things. So that was a blessing. It was a huge blessing to land there. And from there, it was wonderful kind of walking in, having Jameson there too as a draft pick, and just kind of seeing how the difference in draft pick and undrafted, and kind of like you were saying, you're in a dogfight every day. And I thank God that a guy like Trent Williams, he took me under his wing to some degree, and he taught me a ton. He talked to me a ton, and a lot of the veterans, they talked to me, and I listened. I tried to sit around and soak up a lot of what they talked about, not just football, but off the field. And I feel like that made a huge difference. A great thing is a guy by the name of Austin Ryder. He's the starting center for the Kansas City Chiefs. Austin's a phenomenal player, but Austin was drafted in the 7th round, and I was an undrafted free agent. And they let go of Austin, and they kept me on the practice squad. And to this day, I feel like that's the fire that lit kind of up under Austin and got Austin, to be the player he is now. And while I was there, and the time that he kind of spent being away, I was there, and I was able to soak up a ton and grow a ton as a player, and that helped me the following preseason. They ended up letting me go, and I ended up in Seattle for exactly 6 days. But it wasn't anything. Coach Carroll told me, when they let me go, he said, it was nothing you did. You actually came out here and probably had the best week of practice of anybody we had on the team. You came off the bus, you came off the plane, and you worked hard. And that's the thing, is that undrafted kind of gritty. You got to be gritty. You're only going to get so many opportunities. Just as an undrafted guy, you're only going to get so many chances, and you got to maximize on them. And Trent told me something, and he reminded me every day, you got to do something every day to make them remember why they're keeping you, and why that you need to be here. And that's kind of the mentality you take every single day walking into work is, why do you need? What do I do to need? What do I have to do every day to remind you of why you need? Why you can't afford to let me go to another team. And like I said, I thank Trent for that a lot. Morgan Moses, he's another dude that helped me a ton. Ty and Seki, those guys, they were older than me. They had been doing it for a while. They helped a ton. And then eventually, then the next stop was Oakland, where I was able to spend time with Rodney Hudson, Donald Penn, Kelechi Osemele, those dudes, and they helped a ton. Gabe Hudson, they helped me a ton too. All of us kind of talking, and Coach Mike Tice, he was a great O-line coach. I still talk to Coach Tice, here and there. Great O-line coach, great man. And again, just kind of that gritty. I had to keep that chip on my shoulder at all times, just knowing like, hey, you guys got me here, but you overlooked me in the draft. You overlooked picking me. You went elsewhere, you picked elsewhere. And just like I said, keeping that chip, because every day they're bringing in guys to train. They're bringing in guys for tryouts, for workouts, and there's some kid whose dream is to take your job, is to have the position you're in. So it's an all-out dogfight every day.
Well, tell us how you ended up. Well, actually, I want to be clear on this. So you played for Washington, Seattle, and the Raiders in the NFL. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then, how did you end up in Canada, and what team are you currently signed with?
So I ended up in Canada in 2016. I was in Oakland, and everything was going right. It was arguably, the Redskins had let me go, the Seahawks had let me go, and it had really lit a fire up under me. And everything was going right. I was playing great in Oakland. I'd been moved from tackle to center, playing guard tackle in Washington and then Seattle, and then got to Oakland, and Coach Tice said, hey, man, I think you'll be a phenomenal center. And I moved to center. Played some center in high school as well, but never at Duke. So when I made the transition, it made life easy. And that's why I said I got a chance to spend a ton of time with, Rodney Hudson. And one day in mid-October, we were in practice, and we're doing one-on-ones, and I ended up tearing my ACL. And my season was done, season over. Ended up getting surgery, and like I said, rehabbing my knees, just trying to get back in the swing of things and get back to a place of where I could, get back in the NFL. And my agent called me one day and said, hey, you consider the CFL, while we're waiting on this NFL thing to open back up and opportunity to open up. And I was kind of like, I'm not really interested. And she was like, all right. She came back to me about 3 or 4 times, same thing, like, hey, CFL team is really interested in you. And I finally said, after like the 4th time, I finally said, okay, like, what are they talking about? She kind of explained the offer and the deal. And the more I thought about it, I called Marcus and Coach Latina and another of my really good close family friends, Isaac Mooring. He actually played at UNC. He's a D-line coach at Houston Baptist now, University. But and they all told me, hey, go play. Go play. You're still young. You still can do it. Go play. One day you're going to get old. Your body's not going to work the same. Your knees are going to hurt. Your back's going to be sore. Go play. You can go play. So I took my chances. It was Saskatchewan Rough Riders, Coach Chris Jones. He was the GM and head coach at the time. He took a shot on me, and I thank him. He's a great dude, great football mind, tough guy. And he took a shot on me. Coach Steven Soils, who was our O-line coach. He had a good connection with Coach Callahan, Coach Paul Alexander, and he has seen a lot of the things, I've been taught and learned. And there was a lot of continuity, and they brought me in, and I became starting left tackle. I think after the first 4 or 5 games, I spent on the practice squad up there, just kind of learning the differences and nuances to the game and things. And I said I became the starting left tackle, and from there it kind of took off.
Tell us a little bit about those nuances and differences between the NFL and the CFL.
For one, the revenue. The revenue is a major change. You're being paid in Canadian dollars, so It fluctuates from anywhere between 73 cents to $1 to about 79 cents to $1. I think was the best I ever saw while I was there. So, getting paid and coming back to the States, you're losing money every time you spend some Canadian money. We called it funny money while we were up there. We're like, all right, back to the States, we got funny money. Like, so it was that was a huge change. But within the game, the first thing is there's 12 people on both sides of the football. There's a whole extra guy out there on both sides. The field. So the American football field is 53.5 yards. The field up there is 65. It's a soccer field. You're literally playing on a soccer field. The goalposts are in the front of the end zone, not the back. The 55-yard line is the midway point of the field. The end zones, I think, are 20 yards deep. And there's only 3 downs as opposed to 4. You also got what's called the waggle, meaning that anybody not on the line of scrimmage can move before the snap of the football. So you'll watch a game up there, and before the ball is snapped, you'll see the quarterback kind of move his hands, and you might see 4 or 5 guys just start taking off, sprinting towards the line of scrimmage. And the defensive line is a yard off the ball.
What?
Yeah, it's that's why I said those first 5-6 games of kind of adjusting. But believe it or not, I loved it. I really love it. It reminds me a lot of college football in the sense that the momentum swings kind of can go fast just because you only got 3 downs. So there's not really a space to become a downhill, more like a Big Ten team where you can just kind of get like an Iowa where you can just get downhill and run the football 2 times in a row. I mean, you can, but if you get stuffed 2 times in a row, you're now punting the football immediately. So it goes fast. It's much faster just because you have less, snap counts and you have a bigger field. And you kind of defenses play a little different. Because if you're on the right hash, you got to throw an out route to the field, to the left hash. That's like a 50-yard throw. It's a long throw. It's a long throw. So
wow, the orthopedic surgeons must love that. I mean, my God.
You get some really, and that's the thing. You get some really crazy athletes up there. Believe it or not, you get a whole different kind of athlete, like a smaller, quicker body, like T.J. Rahman and Ryan Smith. Those types of bodies up there, they love it. Because there's so much field to kind of manipulate and work with, and they can kind of maneuver and use their quickness and their size to their advantage and being smaller, kind of slippier guys. But you see some wild football players up there. Just because, like I said, it's faster in my opinion. It's much faster in the way the game has to move.
Well, all right. So if there's a season this year, I'll put it in my queue of things to watch. You talked me into it. All right. And of course, at my age, you remember 2 people who played in the CFL, Warren Moon and Doug Flutie.
Yep.
And people forget how dominant of a player Warren Moon was. But you talk about a freak athlete. He certainly was that. All right, so let's we talked a little bit about Duke. Let's go to Duke. How did you end up there? Who recruited you? And earlier you mentioned Coach Luke. That's Coach Matt Luke, who's now at Georgia, I think, right?
Yep. I got my Duke offer at the end of my 10th grade year. I was summer of my 10th grade year, going into my junior year. Got my Duke offer. Coach, I came in for a junior day, and they offered me right there at the end of junior day. I was really, really, really humbled by it. It was my second offer, actually. My first came from East Carolina University. They came over. They were right down the street, 20 minutes. So they drove over, offered me. That was my very first offer in high school. I think I played 3 or 4 maybe varsity football games when they offered me. And from there, it kind of took off with ECU, Duke, Buffalo, Georgia Southern, App State. And then I went on to, get an offer from NC State. Virginia Tech offered me. And like I said, the list kind of ended up growing. But, the main thing that stood out, with Duke was, in all honesty, was Coach Cut. Coach Marion Hobby was actually who was my primary recruiter and who I talked to probably the most. And then, Coach Luke kind of came in and started talking to me and recruiting me as the O-line coach. But Coach Cut, my relationship with him and how personal he is with guys, how personal he is with my family. He took the time to get to know me, to get to know my family, and he really made it a connection and a relationship, while I was there. Even now, since I've been gone, he, if he sees me and he talks to anybody, first thing he says is, "Oh, yeah, you're talking about the big cat." Yeah, I know Big Cat. I know him. So, he's been down to Tallboro. He's seen, the high school. He knows the area. Knows my family personally, and that's honestly the thing that drew me the most. It's just, like I said, his relationship. It's how personal he was with us. He wasn't a head coach. It was like, hey, I'm just going to let my assistants recruit you, and I'm going to, sit up in my office and coach football. It was all, hey, this is my house, this is my family, this is my story, and I want to know yours. I want you to be transparent with me as I'm doing with you. And that really made it almost like a no-brainer in a lot of sense. And the education piece of it, I couldn't really beat both of them coming together. He really made us believe that there was going to be a change in that program with the right people getting in there, and he held true to his word. The way I walked in and the way I walked out, we definitely left the place better than we found it.
Let me ask you a little bit about that, because Check's notes here, you guys had a pretty good offensive line of Lake and Tomlinson, yourself, Lucas Patrick, Matt Skura, and then this guy, Dave Harding, who's sitting up in the booth right now in air conditioning, eating whatever he wants, doesn't have to worry about, the getting his body beat up. I hope you guys give him a lot of grief about that. Anyway. And I'm not just saying that because I've tried to reach out to him and haven't been able to connect with him to see if he wants to come on here. So this isn't just some bitter rant of some angry, almost 40-year-old who has his priorities all wrong. But let me just ask you. I'm curious. You're coming into a program that, from watching it as much as I have up to that point in time, it had not been a very good program. There had not been a lot of success. Believe me, one win a season sometimes I felt like, we were world champs, okay? We were world beaters if we got a win, right?
Right.
You guys came in and completely flipped the narrative about Duke. I mean, to say that you made Duke relevant would be an understatement, okay? How did you, what were your expectations when you came in? 1, was that your goal? 2, and then 3, tell us a little bit about how you all as a team and a unit held each other accountable to achieve your goals.
So walking in, coming in, all we kept hearing from the coaching staff is like, hey, we got good young men here in this program, but we need football players. We need guys that are committed to being football players. And going on visits, he was 100% right. The team, the guys that were there, they were phenomenal. I still keep in touch with a ton of them now. And we tell those guys, we appreciate you guys because you paid the price. Kind of like you said, those one-win seasons and going there with nobody else when it was unpopular, 100% unpopular, through the roof, through Ted Roof era, and just going there and being there and committing to it and trying to change a place. We definitely pay our homage and our gratitude to those guys that came before us because they supported us. They came back to the program. They supported Coach Cut. they didn't look at us like, hey, you guys are coming in, you're Coach Cut's guys. You guys don't want to, you guys don't care about us. They're going to play you. There was no jealousy. It was all support. It was all love. They wanted us to be better. They showed us, the pitfalls and the things that they did incorrectly. And they showed us pieces of tradition that Duke football still holds true. And that they wanted to see, continue to keep growing and our growth and the program's growth. So when we came in as a class, the biggest thing that we focused on was work. And that was really put into place by Coach Durfee. Coach Durfee believed that, we were the work was gonna finally turn the tide. We were going to turn the tide if we continue to keep our nose to the grindstone and just work and outwork people. So when we got there, we knew we weren't going to be the best, but we knew as a younger class that we had some good football players. Juwan Thompson, Anthony Boone, Isaac Blakeney, Desmond Johnson, Jordan Ardigio. These were good football players, and we found that out as true freshmen in training camp because we were competing with a lot of the seniors, and we were making plays. And the seniors and the juniors looked at us and they were like, "Hey, you're going to be good. Like, you're going to really be good." And they kept reassuring us, like, "Hey, guys, like, y'all are different. Like, y'all are super talented. This is." Coach Cut is coming here and he's bringing good coaches and he's supporting you guys. So, it wasn't exactly like this all the time with Coach Ruth. And, things were a little different with him. And, just you guys keep your note, you're doing the right things. And a lot of those older guys that, like I said, came in through Coach Ruth, they led us and they led us the correct way. Raekwon Boyette is a direct reflection of that. And somebody that is from back home that talked to me quite a bit, coming in, that I still talk to and support. And congratulations to him, getting an upgrade and becoming the offensive coordinator there. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job. Him and Jeff this year, I think, are going to, be phenomenal, in helping that offense, get back to where we had it at before. And I think overall it was just, we knew we wanted to be better, and we knew we were better than one win a year. And we had already seen the changing. We came there and Thad and the offense, they had done so many great things. Thad had really taken off and as a player. And my senior year, I watched him beat NC State. And I was at that game, and I kind of saw the turning of the tide a little bit there. And you could tell there was a different team. There was a different swagger kind of going on in Durham. And everybody that was becoming a part of it, we all kind of kept saying it, hey, we're going to change this thing. We're going to be better than what they even are now. And we just want to keep the ball rolling. The toughest part about it, though, was our second year there, my redshirt freshman year, and going 3-9 the second time. The first time wasn't so bad. We had to literally watch Alabama.
I remember. We don't need to relive that. I remember. We can just skip past it.
So many NFL players. So I'll change that. In 2013, playing Florida State in the ACC championship. That's the only other game that I compare those two teams because it was almost the same buzzsaw. Just top draft pick after Heisman Trophy winner, and you're looking up the roster and you're like, man, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, they had a third unit that could be a first unit at most schools.
I saw a defensive end come in. I'm trying to think. They had I want to say the Walker kid. Walker kid was the starter. Tank Carradine was the backup. And both of them were they were pretty high up draft picks. And I'm just like, man, this is rough. But in seeing that and that true freshman year, it was different. We were watching it and we were like, okay, we'll get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get over the hump. After this true freshman year, after this redshirt year's over, we're gonna come in as redshirt freshmen and we're gonna get us over the hump. We're gonna make a bowl game. And that second 3-9 season, it hurt. It hurt a lot. It humbled us in ways that we thought we were much better than what we truly were, and it made us go back to work even harder. And coming out in that 2012 season, we actually coming out of that 2012 season, coming into it. I think another huge piece, and just speaking from an O-line standpoint, I'm sure most of the other guys will they'll say this, specifically Dave, and I'm speaking to Dave when I say this. That trip to Ethiopia changed us as a unit. It brought us together. We got a chance to see each other in some ways that we had never seen each other. We had a chance to kind of see each other in environments that we had never seen each other in. But it brought us all closer together as a unit. And because of that, I really attribute that to our 2012 success, especially up front and especially the unit growing, because there was a level of trust, there was a level of understanding, and there was a much better communication amongst the group, because we spent multiple days in a foreign country together, and you're seeing pythons, every animal you can think of on Nat Geo is around you, and you're just like, man, like anything can happen out here. Again, you're seeing guys get nervous and scared in different spots. I mean, I had a little nerve wreck while I was out there a couple times, but like I said, it brought us together, and that's what I think changed us really and kind of catapulted us through 2012 into 2013 and through 2014 and kind of beyond is that trip, especially for the offensive lineman. I feel like that changed us a ton. It helped us out a lot.
So you were at Duke from 2010 to 2014, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me just kind of close on a couple of points about your time at Duke, and then there's a couple other things I want to get into now. You mentioned Coach Boyette. I remember, I didn't get to see him as much on TV back then, but I would catch him on the radio, watch him on TV when I could. He was a really good player. He was one of my favorite players through that era, and like you, I'm very glad that he's continued to advance up the chain of command at coaching in Durham. And I hope that we have a good season, and I hope that he keeps giving the ball to Durant, because that would be my offensive game plan this year.
Mateo's different. Mateo's definitely talented. And believe it or not, he called me. I talked to him one day, and we were on the phone, and his exact words were, I got one, and I don't think anybody knows. And when he gets here, he told me, he was like, Mateo Durant. I'm telling you, Mateo Durant. I'm telling you. And when I went back one time, and I saw Coach Durfee, and he looked at me, and Coach Durfee said, hey, we got this running back. He's a freak. Like, it's like nothing I've ever seen before.
A brick that can run.
Yeah, he's like, it's like watching, he said it's like a fusion of Juwan Thompson and Sneed and Shaq and Jaleh all kind of fused into one. And I'm like, well, where did y'all find this superhero at? Like, where did y'all get this superhero from? And how did y'all come up on him? Coach Durfee was like, I don't know. And he was like, you just got to see it. And before I could say anything, next thing I know, he's making plays. And I'm looking at Coach Durfee, and I'm like, oh, that's him. He's like, he's different. He's a little different. And I think he's going to have his best year yet this year with Coach Fry, having another year up front. And like I said, Raekwon helping call the plays. And I think they're going to be even really, really, really good this year. Gunner is the quarterback. I got a chance to coach against Gunner when I was at Knightdale. Jacob Monk having another year. I helped train Jacob a lot of times. I talked to him a ton. Him and his family, they're great. Love them. I think we're going to be phenomenal on offense this year.
We're going to come back to the current state of the program in a minute, because I'm very intrigued by what you just said. But I do want to ask you, what was your favorite moment at Duke? On the field, off the field, classroom, anything?
I would say beating UNC in 2013. Best moment, greatest moment, knowing we won the Coastal. When we won the Coastal, that feeling, just even seeing that picture of Coach Latina and the whole O-line together and all of us in the locker room after the UNC game, smiling, it was, again, it's surreal. We always laugh and say, we've never seen Lat so happy. Because he used to scowl at us and like I said, he used to mess with us all the time and try to act like he's mad at me. But he loved us, and he loved, watching us celebrate, win, and sing after the game. Just kind of seeing it change. That 2013 UNC win was, it really meant something for us as a program and for each and every one of us and all the hard work he had put in. Like I said, that still kind of gives me chills thinking about it.
When I think about that game, I think about Edwards returning. I can't remember if it was a punt or a kick, but that year he had so many great plays, and you guys had so many balls bounce the right way for you that in previous years hadn't, and it was just an entirely just special season.
That NC State game was. I actually showed that to a couple of my players, and I said, "You guys want to see it? You guys want to see a superstar that you'll never know that's not in the NFL?" And they're like, "Yeah, like we'll see him." And I show them the last few minutes of that game where he got the interception, then turned around and I think he got an interception. Well, he had the kick return first, then turned around and got an interception and returned it for a touchdown. And then turned around and got another interception and returned it. And they were like, yo. And I was like, yeah. Like, Devon was electric, especially as a return man, because you never knew. Him and Jameson, it was every time. If you kick him the ball, you never know if it's going to go or not.
Yeah, they were a good group, and Edwards, if he hadn't suffered that injury, I think he would have had a really good NFL career. He was just a special player, and you can't teach that kind of instinct, But let me ask you, we mentioned this before we started, 2015, you were not on the team anymore, but you did see the end of the Miami game as a former player recently removed from the Duke Blue Devils football team. What was your reaction to that?
I was sick because I had betted on us in the locker room. I betted on us in the locker room. I was sick. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's happening. But on top of that, the first thing I tried to do was reach out to the guys that I knew in that locker room. And I just tried to tell them, like, hey, you guys got to forget about that as fast as you can. Just don't let it linger. Whatever you do, don't let it linger because, like you were saying before, just the ball not bouncing our way in years past, that was kind of one of those, I hate to say it, but that's one of those old Duke plays. That's the type of stuff that used to happen to us as early on kind of in my career. And you're just kind of left like, how? Like, how does that happen? And why does it happen to us? Like, what did we do wrong? Like, who's not living right around here? Like what is this about? But, I just told them, hey, guys, you got to let that go. You got to get it out of your mind. Don't let it linger in your system. Don't let it linger in the building. Put this game behind you. Learn from it. Put it behind you. And most importantly, like my high school football coach used to say, if you put them away when you're supposed to, you don't have to worry about the referees making mistakes. Because they're people too, and they can't see everything. So they're not going to be perfect. And that's kind of what I told a lot of them, like, hey, y'all got to put people away when you need to. And I told Cirque that even. I was like, hey, you got to, if you see a moment where you can put a team away, go do it. Throw the ball. If it means throwing it, take off, use your feet, if that means, doing it. But don't let them linger. I know it's Miami, but hey, we beat them. And we put them away when we needed to in 2013. So It was scary because I didn't want it to really hurt him the rest of the season. And in a lot of cases, I feel like it did. I feel like that game did linger on for the next few games.
Yeah, and the players that I've talked to who were part of that have confirmed that, at least for them, and it sounded like for a good majority of the team, it did. And to your point, I think you're giving people benefits of the doubt in regard to officiating, and I commend that. But I do want to say he's staring right at the guy who gets tackled and his knee is down the Miami player, when he's trying to lateral the ball off. And Cirque and the offense had one heck of a drive to get the ball in the end zone to get the lead back. And that play, I don't. Yeah, how many years has it been now? Like 6 years, and I still get this angry about it. I mean,
every time I see it pop up, I'm always like, no, stop showing that. Like, stop showing. We've had so many more great moments than that one play, and everybody, like you said, everybody saw it. The guy's knee was on the ground. It was obvious. He's looking at him, and they just let him keep playing, and it was just bad. It was bad officiating. Probably the worst call I've ever seen in football, to be honest with you.
And the missed call, I can intellectually and emotionally process and deal with as a fan who may or may not be drinking some adult beverages during the game with a buddy of mine. All right, I can handle that. What I think made it hard for everybody, and still hard for everybody, and there's probably a Duke Miami Halloween subset of PTSD. Okay. Is the way that the review was handled. The guy comes out 2 or 3 times. It takes forever. The replays show he was clearly down. And what is the point of review? And then afterwards, the conference comes out and says, "Our bad, we goofed. Duke should have won that game." I mean, that I think that process of it probably is what led, if I had to, get inside the minds of people and try to psychoanalyze them, which I'm not a professional in that field and can't do it. But I would think that part of it probably made it harder for the guys to get over what happened that season.
Absolutely. When you got, not only fans, but family members watching it and, still talking about it, and guys trying to get ready for the following week. And it's human nature, it's human nature. And I know Coach Cut, he probably was, preaching the same thing I'm talking about now, which is, hey, got to go over it. Got to get over it. We got another game. We got a rest of the season. We got to grow from it. But absolutely, it was sickening to. Again, I'm in the locker room, and they went down on the drive and they scored, and I'm yelling and I'm talking, and now I'm excited because I'm like, yeah, we're about to shock the world again. Like, we're on the map now, and like you said, he came out 2 or 3 times, and when I was there at Duke, Brandon Connett was. I used to call him Mr. Cleo sometimes. Brandon Connett on the reviews a lot of times he could tell me whether it was going to be whether it was going to stand or it was going to be overturned, even before they get into the booth to go and check it out. And he was always right. So on this one, I was like, okay, based on some things that based on just remembering some of the stuff Brandon used to say, like, this has got to go. This has got to go different. And, when he came out and went back in, I'm like, oh, I've never seen this before. Like, this is a new number for me. I'm not used to this back and forth act they're pulling here. And then when they came out and they said, it's upheld, and I'm sick because I'm like, wow, not only did we lose, I lost my bet, but then it was just kind of like, well, wait, and how is that upheld? Like, what more evidence do you need? He was obviously down. Everyone in the country that has flipped on college football right now is seeing this, and they're seeing the kid was down, and then, like I said, it becomes a topic of conversation, and then the conference says, like, hey, we got it wrong. Duke should have won, and I'm kind of like, what's that doing for our kids? What's that doing for our program?
And your bet. What's it doing for your bet?
Yeah, it's if anything, it hurt us because now, like I said, the psyche, it's just like, wow, we did beat them, but now our record won't reflect that. We can't go back and change it, and now we got to go on and move on to more games. Knowing morally, yes, we beat them. Technically, yes, we beat them, but that's not what the scoreboard. That's not what the scoreboard's going to show. And it like I said, it hurt. It hurt me a little bit, but I know those guys that actually were out there, that were grinding, that were fighting, that were, still trying to win that game, and especially for Cirque, who was a great quarterback, great guy, great teammate, phenomenal guy. And I know it hurt him just because, of all the hard work and bringing us back and kind of having the drive that he had and making the throws and making those plays. It's tough. It's tough to kind of live through it and grow through it and move on.
Right. And the fact that they fined the officials probably for picking up a flag on a review, of course, we'll never know the details about that. Didn't help. But let me just ask you to kind of close on this. I'd be interested with your thoughts on the current O-line. A lot of Duke fans always grumble about the O-line, but I thought that this O-line was actually pretty good this past year, and had they not had so many injuries at the center position, they probably would have done even better. You're an O-line guy. You're a run game coordinator. Tell us what you think about the current crop of O-linemen at Duke.
Well, first thing I'll say is they got the right man for the job as the O-line coach. Coach Fry, I met with him. First, Coach Latina called me and said, "Hey, make sure you go over and meet Coach Fry." And I was just like, "All right." He's like, "He's one of my guys." I'm like, "Okay, you're taking credit for this one." He literally said, "You'll love it." He was like, "You'll love him, trust me." I'm like, "All right, whatever. Yeah, you want to poke your chest out? All right, coach." And in the first 30 seconds, I literally texted Coach Latina back. I said, "Yep, love him." He reminds me so much of Coach Latina. It's scary. He's fiery, tough, gritty, sarcastic, but caring. Loves those guys. Loves the game. Loves coaching. Really plays with wants guys to play with a lot of enthusiasm and a tough guy mentality. And wants them to finish guys and play hard and, just be a tough, gritty group. And I see it. And I see it flourishing. And like I said, it reminds me a lot of us and a lot of what Coach Latina instilled in us as a group. And, Jacob Monk is going to be, I think is going to have his best season yet. Easily going to have his best season to date. Not just because he's somebody that I train and I work out with, I talk to, but because Jacob's put in a lot of work and he's really passionate behind the program and he really wants to see it kind of take off and continue to ascend and do better and do great. So I think that's going to fuel a lot of his success this year. Maurice McIntyre, I think, is going to be the dark horse of the year. I think he's going to surprise the heck out of a lot of Duke football fans with the way he plays and the accolades that he stacks up. Because he reminds me a lot of Lakin in a lot of regards, but he does remind me a lot of myself. Just because he's a really good athlete, really smart guy on the field that plays really, really hard, really tough, really strong. The two newcomers, I've heard nothing but great about them. Specifically, forgot their young man's name from Alkaline Christian that transferred in. I've heard nothing but greatness about him. So I think him, being a newcomer on our offensive line, I think he's going to help us out a lot. Jake, being able to be back at center and being healthy is going to do wonders for us. I think that's going to be wonderful for us in a lot of regards. And, even Graham being able to move from center and him, coming in to Duke as a tackle, being recruited as a tackle and having to play center, kind of get your feet wet and being, Coach Fry teaching them how to play center and working with them, getting them right. Austin Davis being there, to help teach and coach and mentor those guys. AD, being one of our young guys that came through with us. I think they're going to be really, really good. Really good. I think they're going to shock a ton of people and a ton of teams this year. Just up front with the mentality and the tough, hard-nosed mentality they're going to play with. And I really believe in Graham a lot. Graham Barton really showed me a lot. I believe in him a ton. And I think Maurice and Jacob are going to probably have their best year to date this season.
Well, I'm glad to hear from an expert that I'm not completely off base in how I've been reading the O-line. So that always makes me feel good that I'm not totally wrong about that. And I think, if they stay healthy, if they can gel, I think they'll be good. And I'll be very excited to see the players that you mentioned earlier, particularly at the quarterback, Gunnar Holmberg. We know a little bit more at the skill positions, the running back, the wide receivers, what to expect. Quarterback, a little bit unknown just because he hasn't played a whole lot. And then the O-line, I mean, if we don't have a lot of turnover at the center position, I think we should be pretty good. And so turning, though, I want to give you one last chance. Just tell us anything you want to say about Duke football, the campus, the academics at Duke, anything about what you're doing now, the biggest challenges that a school like Duke faces, wide open. Say whatever you want to say.
I first and foremost, again, I appreciate this opportunity. This is great for fans and I think former players to join and get on your platform and speak with you, and just to be able to, talk about the program and kind of give a insight look to Duke football and to see, like you said, we always have on our helmets. A lot of times you don't always get a chance to kind of see into the life of a lot of guys that play in the program. So I think this definitely, this platform, this opportunity helps a ton. And the next thing is, for every fan that, saw this year and kind of saw, the downturns and the turnovers, as alumni, believe it or not, we grope and grind probably worse than you guys. And the reason being is because we know what it used to look like, in the sense that we lived it. We literally lived it, the 3-9s, the kind of going through games where you're winning, and, was it Virginia Tech 2012, where, a game we should have really been getting blown out, that, we're in the game the whole time, and then things just all of a sudden kind of fall apart. We lived that. So that pain, we 100% understand it. But, the main thing, and I guess the reason why we're so passionate and why we grope and grind a little bit more is because, we know what Coach Cut stands for, and we know what Coach Durfee, instills, and, how hard Hap works, and everybody in that program, we know what the standard is. And our expectations are always going to be high. We expect nothing but results from those guys. And a lot of the alumni tries to give back, and a lot of us are still welcomed in that building. And we try, and I specifically know that I try to get back and, support those guys, not just, the guys that I train, but all of them. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, even, guys like Victor DiMukagey and Chris Rump and Derek Tangelo, even with him transferring, Drew Jordan, those guys, they transferred, but I support them. And they're always going to be Duke gang and Duke for life to me. Be it wherever they land at and whatever they did and wherever they go. Those guys are always going to have my support. They're always going to get my support. As fans, I can't thank you all enough for the support and, for staying with us through the tough times and the good times as well. Just continuing to be great fans and supporting us and helping the program. we're getting better and we're going to improve. And that's kind of my ode with the performance, the kind of transition and, the TC3 performance and what I do. I personally have a vendetta with the state of North Carolina because I'm an offensive lineman, and I feel like as an offensive lineman in the state, I feel like we have a lot. We can become better, and I want to see Duke recruit better offensive linemen in the state of North Carolina just as much as I want to see every other school, because I feel like there is a niche for that here. I feel like we do have a ton of great athletes on the front of the offensive line. So me training and doing that, that's actually my part of my reasoning for doing it. Is I want a lot of the offensive line play in the state to elevate from from middle school all the way up, so that we can get better offensive linemen. So we can look out there and Duke football can see, hey, we got 3, 4, 5 guys out there that are North Carolina guys that we don't have to go out of the state to recruit. And we can, keep our fan base even closer to home and grow that fan base, because I saw from a firsthand that's what affected us beating North Carolina and NC State was we had more homegrown talent. We had taken more of that home talent and it didn't maneuver its way out to Chapel Hill and Raleigh. So by all means, like I said, I'm doing the training with those guys, and like I said, I just really appreciate Coach Cut giving me an opportunity to play there and represent the program, and going to do greater things. And like I said, I appreciate you and really all the fans for supporting us and giving us a voice and a platform to kind of speak and give some insight into the program, because it was a phenomenal opportunity that changed my life and brought me closer to a lot of great people and great young men. And I want that to be for every young man that kind of comes into contact with the program. You're being recruited by Duke. It's like Coach says all the time, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. Duke alumni from past, present, guys like Raekwon and Leon Wright. I actually talked to Leon not long ago. He's a corners coach at Old Dominion now. And, just guys like that, and even guys like Reggie Love, who has been a phenomenal friend of mine and somebody I've grown to kind of know a little bit now and contacted a little bit more, and we keep in touch. He's a former Duke football alum. He didn't play for Coach Cut, but being there playing, gave me the opportunity to meet Reggie and learn from him and consult him about different things. And so it's like I said, it's definitely not a 4-year, it's a 40-year. And I just appreciate you all. Appreciate everyone. Appreciate this opportunity. So if there's anything I can ever do for you or anybody else, don't hesitate to reach out. My Twitter, Takoby C73, Big Cat 252 on Instagram, and then my business, TC3 Performance. Anybody that reaches out, it's me. Like you said, you can DM me, I'll answer. I usually try and get back as quickly as I can, but like I said, I really appreciate it. Thankful for the opportunity and all the support.
Well, that was a great summation, and I appreciate the kind things you said about us fans and about the platform we're trying to build here at Bull City Coordinators. And I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to thank everybody who's come on here, because you were talking about you grumbling as an ex-player, former player at Duke, and an alum of the football program. Opportunities like this have really helped me learn a lot about what goes on behind the scenes, how the program operates, and it has helped me become a lot more patient and more understanding about the difference between a 3-9 season and a 6-6 season that ends in a bowl game, and how thin of a reed that can be there. You mentioned Leon Wright and Reggie Love. I may have to hit you up on trying to get in touch with one or both of them, because if Leon Wright's at ODU, I'm in Roanoke on the other side of the state, so it wouldn't be too hard for the two of us to connect. But I love any opportunity to talk about Duke football. I appreciate you coming on. This is recorded on May 8. Tomorrow is May 9, which is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day. If you want, Takoby, if you want to go ahead and throw that out there before we let you go. If there's any.
Absolutely. Happy Mother's Day to my mom, my girlfriend, Camille, her mom, and all the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day, and thank you for everything that you do. Absolutely.
All right, there you go. Now you can't get in trouble for forgetting to say that. So we protected you there on that one. Anybody who is listening, anybody who is following us, please reach out. You can follow us at Duke FB Coverage on Twitter. My DMs are open. Send us a comment at bullcitycoordinators.com. Send us an email at bullcitycoordinators@gmail.com. Listen to our podcast on Apple, Anchor, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We have a few more interviews planned. I'm going to go ahead and say this since this came up heavily during this interview. Coach Latina has committed to do an interview in June. My schedule is a little bit brutal right now with kids' lacrosse commitments that we have to follow through pretty much every day of the week, it feels like. So doing these as often as I like is a little tricky. We also have some other interviews planned, and I'm trying to line a few more up. So if you are a former player, current player, coach, current or former, or family member of someone associated with the Duke program, or you're associated with it in any way, please reach out. We're easy to get a hold of. We appreciate your continued support, and we look forward to bringing you many more good interviews like this one in the future.